we're going to take that off. Welcome to Hedgehog Watchdog. I'm Devin Saxon, joined by Greg Baldwin. We're the meme team behind Libertarian Party of South Dakota and South Dakotans Against Prohibition. Today's episode is brought to you by Pinkcoin. You can check them out at pinkcoin.com. Great show today. Today we're going to talk about Kristi Noem's State of the State address.
It should be interesting. I skimmed it. I haven't watched the whole video yet, but
so Greg's gonna give his first reaction. I watched it last night. I don't want to spoil anything. So yeah, let's get to it.
Sergeant at Arms, would you please announce the arrival of our governor?
Ladies and gentlemen,
announcing the Queen.
Honorable Governor Kristi Noem.
All rise.
That's Aaron Aylward right there, former chair of the Libertarian Party, right in front of.
That's a clap of protest, I see. Looks like they set up some bulletproof glass for the governor.
Does she really need this much applause? Come on now.
Yeah, that is a little bit much. Like,
dude, I would not be standing and applauding for her after that lawsuit she filed. There's no way.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Roden, Mr. Speaker, members of the legislature, Chief Justice Jensen, and also justices of the Supreme Court, constitutional officers, and fellow South Dakotans. It is my privilege to stand.
I should have got way drunker for this.
Our state. The year 2020 is one for the history books. We faced some incredible challenges in South Dakota. We met this adversity head on, and the people of South Dakota deserve all of the credit. Now, people struggled, they lost loved ones, and their livelihoods were threatened, but they never lost hope. They were resilient. Their fortitude enabled us to emerge from 2020 stronger as individuals and as a state. Now, last year, a good portion of this speech was dedicated to explaining why South Dakota is the perfect place to work and to run a business. Our people, our work ethic, and their values are second to none. Now, all of us in this room who work for them respect the rights of our people to live their lives.
Oh, really?
Corporate income tax.
Except my right to smoke
weed? No
weed?
business inventory tax. We have no personal income tax, and we also do not have a personal property tax.
Every time she lies, you got to take a drink. So that's one.
Here's my drink. I definitely have a property tax to pay. I guess personal property is different, huh? She kind of made it sound like property tax, though. She didn't really
tax.
Well, I just meant the lie was we respect people's rights.
Yeah. So that's 2 drinks I think we should have to take.
And they are predictable. In short, for those who might be worried about tax increases, you don't need to be. The government in South Dakota, we live within our means. We balance our budget without accounting gimmicks.
I guess we gotta take another drink there, Greg, because they use federal stimulus money to balance their budget this year, and that's a gimmick. That's definitely a gimmick. So here we go, drinking.
Yeah, the states relied on federal dollars quite a bit, to be honest.
To AAA credit rating, and our state pension plan is fully funded. Our state believes in smart regulation, and we roll out the red carpet, not the red tape.
Really? Because you're rolling out red tape on us opening dispensaries in South Dakota there, Your Majesty.
She even complained that it was going to cost $7 million to over-regulate marijuana. That sounds like red tape to me.
Yeah.
We are the pheasant capital of the world. And
is that really what we are? I don't.
I don't know. Fact checkers. Do we got a fact check? I'm calling BS. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Our state parks, yes, you can clap for that.
Oh my God, look at this fake ass.
And our state parks and our outdoor recreational opportunities are unmatched. For those who have spent the last 9 months shut down or locked up in other states, South Dakota is open. We have stayed open the entire time. And that is how we will operate for as long as I am governor.
We got a comment.
Wow, dude, it's unbelievable.
We have a comment.
Now, one of my
over there.
chief priorities as governor is to grow South Dakota. And that is why you hear me inviting those who cherish and value our way of life to come join us.
What the hell does that even mean? Whose way of life? Because I want people to come to South Dakota that want to go to dispensaries and buy weed and not be hassled by the police. That's my South Dakota.
Yeah,
And you're standing in the way of that, Kristi, with your fake ass face and everything about you. Let's look at some comments real quick here. Roger Sanchez says, congratulations. It turns out South Dakota is the pheasant capital of the world.
Oh, he fact checked it for us.
Well, we're about to be the weed capital of the country and the world.
Yeah.
Please clap. Yes. This is very Jeb Bushy. She's got a very cult of personality here. And actually, it's spread across the whole nation now that we're the only state that didn't have a shutdown order by the governor. So she's basically taking credit for just not doing anything what she should have done. And it's like, is it really our fault all the other states didn't do that? Because I mean, that doesn't make her special in my opinion.
Yeah, they actually tried to pass some bill at the end of the legislative session last time that would have granted her the authority to actually make shutdowns, and that bill didn't pass. So technically, she never had the authority to shut anything down anyways, although I'll be the first to admit that didn't stop any other governor, whether they had the authority to do it or not.
Dude, I bet when we legalized weed finally and we won this lawsuit, that she's going to take credit for South Dakota legalizing weed and being about freedom. And I'm the governor of freedom. I'm America's governor. Like, dude, I can see it now. All right, let's continue.
South Dakota is the perfect place to come raise your family, to grow your business, and to live your life as you see fit.
Really? Because I just want to smoke weed and be left alone. And it's more harmless than beer. Give me a break. This is bullcrap. I cannot just live my life the way I want to. You are trying to get into my life with your witch fingers and infect it.
My administration continues to do everything in its power to help in this effort.
No, you don't.
Last year, we assisted with projects that will result in more than $2.8 billion in capital investment across South Dakota.
That's like a tenth of what the cannabis industry would bring to South Dakota if you would just. I'm just going to keep bitching about this the whole episode, man. Excuse me.
Well, yeah, but we got to
Projects
bitch about other things than just cannabis. We got to wait. Wait till she gets to it.
Yeah.
Ranging from agriculture to manufacturing to technology. We announced that Amazon is building a $200 million distribution center in Sioux Falls, but it wasn't just.
You supported taxing Amazon. You supported taxing customers of Amazon, which is us, South Dakotans. Kristi,
It's probably why they moved here, because they were already paying taxes to South Dakota, but by being here, you get all the tax breaks of being in South Dakota.
Yeah. Well, don't give them credit, Greg. If I was Amazon, I would have given the finger to South Dakota. Like, I don't even get how that logic is.
Nah, because what they do is a lot of corporate offices will move to South Dakota, because if you, let's say you make like 300, you're working for some big corporation and you make, you're an upper executive or whatever, and you make like $250,000, $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
by not paying that state income tax, that's huge. Like a place like New York,
Yeah,
I don't know the tax rate off the top of my head, but
it's probably
I'd
hefty as
say
hell.
it's like 10 or 15%. Well, that's 10% of like 300,000. I mean, that's freaking what, $30,000. So
Yeah,
a lot of companies like to make their, basically, oh hey, you work out of South Dakota, and then maybe they really don't too. I would imagine there was a story. There's a place in Sioux Falls. There's an address in Sioux Falls where there's like 100 different businesses registered to this address,
yeah.
and they're literally just taking advantage of the no income tax and the tax breaks by registering their business and saying it's based in South Dakota, but it's not actually based in South Dakota.
Yeah, and for those listening that aren't from South Dakota, South Dakota sued Amazon so that they could tax Amazon purchases from South Dakotans, and that went to the Supreme Court. So, yeah, that's that. Here, let me keep going.
Our largest community that saw this kind of success. Towns like Fort Pierre, Belle Fourche, Watertown, Rapid City, Parker, and Lead all saw companies choosing and growing in their communities. In total, the projects that we have worked on over the past year are expected to result in more than 2,100 new jobs in the state of South Dakota. And just yesterday, we announced the largest project in the history of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, a $500 million investment from Schwann's, which will bring 600 full-time.
The history of the governor's economic development team, that was started by Dugard. That was just literally like 4 years ago. So she's trying to like talk up like this is the biggest deal that happened in a long time. It's like, no, this is the economic development team from South Dakota's governor office is brand spanking new. Just got created with Dugard like 4 years ago or 8 years ago.
Time jobs to Sioux Falls. Now, CJ Foods and Schwann's are building a world-class facility, the most high-tech facility of its kind
Yeah, that
in the
CJ
entire
Foods, I think, is
world.
like Korean.
That's a
or
great
something
start to
like that.
2021 for our
Yeah, I've
state.
never heard of it.
Yeah.
Here's the mindless applause. Give it up for Queen Gnome. Woo!
This economic development provides opportunities for our families and our communities to grow. It allows our kids to start and develop their careers here. And when they start their families, that will mean that they're closer to home, to mom, to dad, to grandparents, and to extended family. Strong families have always been the backbone of South Dakota. Now, President Reagan once said, our families nurture, preserve, and pass on to each succeeding generation the values that we share and we cherish, values that are the foundation of our freedoms.
This is just
Today,
a whole lot
more
of
than
fluff.
ever,
This is
it is
just
important that we strengthen
propaganda,
families.
man.
I am committed
This is like
to
that
being a
good,
family
feel-good,
first governor,
patriotic-y
fighting to strengthen
stuff.
the family unit
And people are
and
eating
preserve
it
the
up.
values that South Dakotans have always long embraced. Now, today I'm joined by two very special families that will help explain what one of my major priorities is this session, the Fite family and the Duffy family. Now, Aaron and Tammy Fite live in Platte, South Dakota, with their 4 children. Sean and Rachel Duffy live in Wisconsin. They have 9 children, and you might remember that Sean served with me while I was in Congress. I have known both families for years, and the reason that I asked them to join us today is to highlight 2 of their children. Now, Cody Fite and Valentina Duffy both have Down syndrome. Now, God bless these beautiful children with an additional chromosome. Their gorgeous smiles, their distinct personalities, that vibrancy that you see, they're all gifts from God. For those who have had the privilege of knowing someone with Down syndrome, you know that that person ends up being a gift to all of us. So I share this today because
You know what else is a gift from God? All the kids that have seizures, but they can't get their medicine because Kristi Gnome wants to step on people's toes and ban it. We voted for this. We voted to help these kids, and she's trying to override our votes with this stupid ass lawsuit against Amendment A. And she's trying to act like she cares about kids all of a sudden. Like, no, you don't care about people's kids. You're using this for like political fucking scenery. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious too. It's disgustingly obvious.
Even in 2021, in some European countries like Iceland and Denmark, they're on pace to virtually eliminate children with Down syndrome.
Well, you know what else Iceland did? In 2008 and 9, when the banking collapse happened, they stormed their goddamn government buildings and changed their government and arrested the people that were involved in the financial collapse. And we didn't do that. What did we do? We bailed out all the corporations that caused it. So talking shit about Iceland, like, no, Iceland's kick-ass. You're not kick-ass, Kristi.
Do this one way and through one way only, through abortion. As actress Patricia Heaton points out, Iceland is simply killing everyone that has it. Now, as South Dakotans, and frankly, as human beings, we should all be appalled by this. We are better than that.
That's what the
Declaration
Spartans
of
used to do.
Independence summarizes what we all know in our hearts to be true, that God created each of us and endowed
Well,
all
look, just
of
pause
us
it for a
with the
second.
right
Here's,
to life.
Here's the thing. Look, I'm not going to advocate that you should get rid of kids with Down syndrome, but that's a personal choice. If Iceland has decided, that they're going to get rid of this genetic mutation.
It's like, are you the queen of Iceland, Kristi? No, you're not the queen of Iceland. You're the queen of South Dakota.
Well, look, it's just I don't know. It's a sensitive subject, but it's a touchy subject.
Yeah,
she's talking about it. She's talking about abortion here.
Yeah, I see it as
but
she was on Fox News talking about it too, and I just see it as like the Republican Party is trying to get another abortion bill to the Supreme Court, and I think this is like their new twist on it. They're going to be like, oh, let's get banning children with genetic defects banned, or banning abortions of children with genetic defects or fetuses. So
I think we talked about it the other day, and I think what really needs to happen is they need to develop better testing, because I don't know if she's going to address it here, but this is about her wanting abortion bans. We ban them after, I'm not an expert on abortion, but we ban abortions after a certain period of time.
Yeah, I think it's like 3 months or something.
But I think there's an exception for like Down syndrome, and typically you can't test, or you're not going to know if they have it within that normal time frame. So I think it's just she's this is a tough subject, but
I know, right?
because I don't want to be insensitive or rude to people with Down syndromes, but
yeah,
you would never, as a couple, go out of your way to have a kid with Down syndrome. You wouldn't do it. And so if there was a medical way to ensure that your kids didn't have this disease or disorder or whatever you want to classify it as, you would do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not, telling people what to do, but I mean, it's definitely a tough decision.
I'm just saying the government should stay out of it. Like, I don't even have an opinion on this because I'm not a woman, so I don't really that's not my deal. But I don't like the government stepping in and like demanding. All right, let's keep going.
Especially when you have a governor. Here's the liberal argument against this kind of stuff, because you have a governor that wants to limit and get rid of like welfare as much as possible.
Yeah.
Right. But if your kid is born with a disability and stuff, unless you are well off, well, guess what? Guess where the medical care and the funding and everything for that child with a disability comes from. It's going to come from welfare, from the state, from the government, and so there isn't. So the liberals will always argue, because they say, well, you want to get rid of abortion, but you don't want to pay for what happens next. Basically,
Yeah.
it's like, so what you're going to advocate is that we should not have abortion because somebody has Down syndrome. But on the flip side of that, are you ready for the consequences of that, where that kid is probably going to be, uh, you know, funded by
Yeah,
the government for his whole entire life,
exactly.
subsidized by the government?
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
This is true for everyone, including those with an extra chromosome. So I look forward to the day.
Here you go. Round of applause. Losing your right to choose. Let's applaud.
Oh, you got to stand
Oh,
first.
standing ovation. Woo!
I guess using those kids work.
Yo. I already know what's going to happen. This is going to, well, I guess the Supreme Court's conservative now, so maybe it will. The Supreme Court might overturn Roe v. Wade, but I know this is
I look
going to
forward
Supreme
the day when
Court.
the Supreme Court recognizes
Here we
that
go.
all preborn children inherently possess the right to life too. Until that time comes, I am asking that South Dakota and its legislature that will pass a law that bans the abortion of a preborn child just because that child is diagnosed with Down syndrome. Let's make South Dakota.
So is it just Down syndrome, or is she
Well,
advocating for anybody with a genetic disorder? What about cystic fibrosis or anything like what about something where the kid's going to be suffering?
Yeah, but the way that's worded is weird. And again, I am not an expert on abortion.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert either.
But she says that you can't get one just because of
so how are they going to enforce that? Like,
well, that's my point. Like, what
are they going to have to prove? Are they going to have to ask? They have to ask you in a form like, why are you having an abortion? No.
Well, as far as I knew, you could have one for any goddamn reason you wanted.
Yeah.
So what do you mean? Yeah, so I don't know what all this means. If you put up the phone number, and if you're an abortion expert,
oh yeah,
call in.
Here's our number. 605-857-3387. If you want to lecture us on our opinions, go for it. But what was I gonna say? Fuck, I forgot. Maybe I'll think of it while we're playing it more. Oh yeah, I remember. So how are they going to enforce this? Like, is it going to be like a law where if you go to a doctor's visit and you find out your kid has Down syndrome that you can't have an abortion anymore? Because then people aren't going to go for doctor visits.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I also would like to point out too that like the state of South Dakota has no problem passing laws that they know to be unconstitutional or that they know that will get challenged in court, cost the taxpayers millions of dollars defending.
Yeah, they do this every year. Last year was a trans bill and a bathroom bill.
That's what I'm saying about like them arguing about the unconstitutionality of Amendment A. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You guys pass unconstitutional crap quite often that has to be played out in the court system, and here you are, hot meat kettle.
Hypocrite.
Make South Dakota a symbol of hope and justice and love for children like Cody and Valentina.
Not children with seizures, though.
Pro-life groups across the state, my team will present legislation for your consideration and for swift passage. Aaron and Tammy and Sean and Rachel, would you and your families please stand for us today? Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being a voice for many of those who can't speak for themselves.
Oh, it's a clap going again. Thanks for showing up. So brave.
Oh my God.
That one family, she said, had 9 kids.
And protecting children begins in the womb, but children of all ages need a loving family to care for and to support them throughout their lives. In my first State of the State, I stood at this podium and I asked people to open their hearts and their homes to foster children. I asked you to consider giving a child a forever home. In fiscal year 2020, we licensed a 5-year high of 238 new foster homes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to
Maybe.
commend those families that have opened up their hearts and their homes to these children. And let me explain to you why this work is so important. Oftentimes, these kids just need a bridge. They need someone to believe in them. It's important to note that there are a lot of people inside and outside of government providing that bridge. Today, I want to recognize a very special friend of mine.
I just want to point out there's a big scandal like in 2015 where these foster parents were like molesting their kids for like 8 years straight. And the attorney general at the time, Marty Jackley, was involved in that case for some reason. I can't remember exactly what, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really trust the foster care system in South Dakota that much after that story, because they sought help and they were not getting any help. Like they weren't believed. And then
A lot of times kids are in foster care in South Dakota and they don't need to be either. Where it's literally because of our insane drug laws and you sent their parents to prison.
Yeah.
You know, women in South Dakota, like 80% or something like that, women in South Dakota in the prison system are in there for meth.
Yeah.
So the state actively breaks apart families, and in some situations, sure, there's abuse or neglect, and you probably should remove that child for their safety. But South Dakota automatically assumes that because you're caught with narcotics, that there's neglect and abuse.
Yeah.
They just assume it, and that's not always the case.
Yep. 100% agree. I think it's alarming that the foster system has taken on so many kids, because that means that they're taking more kids from their families, than they ever have been before.
Yeah. Jack is right back here at the back of the room. Would you stand up, Jack, while I talk about you? Jack Brewer, for those of you who might not know him, is a former NFL safety. Today, he's an ordained minister and the executive director of the Jack Brewer Foundation. He runs inner city youth programs and teaches in prisons all across America. He's an advocate for strong families, and he highlights the significance of having a father in every home. Now, Jack is in South Dakota this week to join the First Gentleman, to join Brian on a couple of visits to the men's and the women's prisons, as well as going to McGrosson Boys Ranch in Sioux Falls. Jack, I want to thank you for all the work that you do, all that you do here in the Pressfield.
Way to go, Jack.
He's like, this is my black friend. I told you I had one.
Excited about what Jack could teach all of us about being God's hands to people who need it. As I outlined in my budget address, I believe that we can create an environment where families are not forced to choose between the modern economy on the one hand and then life in their hometown on the other. And that's why I'm proposing that we invest in connecting this state with broadband. Even the most remote communities across our state should be provided the tools that they need to be connected. Thriving communities from border.
All right. Well, here, as the former Public Utilities Commissioner candidate in 2020, here's my view on spending. What's my view on spending hundreds of millions? It costs $16,000 to lay 1 mile of broadband cable. So there's new technologies out. Like Elon Musk has started the Starlink program where it's providing internet to rural areas with satellites. And it's cheap as hell, and it's already live now. Like, we don't need broadband's outdated. So promoting broadband now in 2021, it would be the same as promoting the Pony Express like a decade after the telegram came out. Like, this is outdated technology. South Dakota should not be wasting hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to lay cable down when we can have internet provided with satellites. And there's Elon Musk isn't the only one doing it. There's different companies. There's competing companies, which is what the free market and capitalism is all about. So let's keep going.
Border to border will yield much better results for our state and our families rather than concentrated growth in just 2 big cities. So there are still 135,000 South Dakotans without high-speed broadband access.
Just sign up for Starlink. Their beta program is already live, and it doesn't matter how rural of a location you live in.
We need to meet those needs in the 21st century.
The needs have been met.
State investment coupled with industry funding and
We
federal
don't need
grants
state
is enough to get the
investment.
job done.
No.
Now, success would mean that our rural communities would have the opportunity.
They've been saying this for decades. Like, every politician up there is always saying that they're going to bring broadband internet. If you go back and look at all the public utility commissioner campaign ads, that's all they talk about. And you'll look at the date, and it's like 2003. It's like, you have been talking about this forever, and you have not gotten it done. And it's taken you so long to get it done that it's outdated technology now, and we don't need it anymore.
To grow, and that families would have the chance to stay home together. Take, for example, the story of Jeff Odell. Jeff works for one of the largest computer network infrastructure companies in the world. He grew up in Lemon, South Dakota. He went to junior high and high school in Aberdeen, and after attending 1 year of college at the School of Mines, Jeff left and made his way west. For 20 years, Jeff lived in sunny Southern California. But every summer for the last 10 years, he would come back to South Dakota. At first, his trips were just a week or 2 at a time, but then they started to get longer. In April of 2019, Jeff started building a home in Lemon. And when COVID hit, thanks to broadband access, Jeff was able to move back to Lemon full-time and to work remotely. Most of his work days are spent on video conference calls, but he says he doesn't mind at all because he is surrounded by open spaces, fresh air, and great people. His cousins and their kids live in Lemon, and his folks and sister are just 3 hours away in Aberdeen with another sister in Bismarck.
We don't care.
Then there's also another woman that we talked to. Her name's Stacy. Every day she enjoys a view of the Missouri River, and with her dog by her side, she works remotely. According to Stacy, having a strong broadband connection means that she can work where she wants to live.
Stacy,
instead of living
you don't need
where she has to
broadband.
work.
Get Starlink.
Now, stories like Jeff and Stacy's are very common in South Dakota lately. People with big city salaries are moving to small town South Dakota. They enjoy the lower cost of living, and they end up spending their money in our communities. They believe in the freedom also that South Dakota has to offer. My hope is that we can work together to get our state connected, so we can set up this generation and
Freedom
the
my
next
ass.
for success, no matter where they want to live. Now, speaking of where people want to live, residential home sales are up all across the state, and home construction in South Dakota is especially strong. New home construction in South Dakota is more than 1.5 times greater than the national average. And over the past 10 months, construction employment in South Dakota is up 10% over a year ago. Now, as I told you all last month, we're in a much stronger financial position than other states across the country. States that shut down their economies are now looking for tax increases or drastic spending cuts to make their ends meet. We made different choices than virtually every other state over the past year. And to
You didn't
be
even
fair,
spend all the COVID
I
money
never
either.
once thought that the decisions that we were making in South Dakota during the pandemic would be unique. But other states based a lot of their decisions on fear and on emotion. And now they're seeing the results of that.
Speaking about basing your decisions on fear and emotion, that's literally every argument you have on filing a lawsuit against Amendment A. That's it. Like, I remember watching the debate where the lieutenant governor's wife was debating Melissa Molente, and the only argument she kept getting hammered on, like, where in the Constitution does it give you the authority to ban anything? And the only response she could have to any of these constitutional questions was, well, we're just afraid that if we legalize it, people will eat edibles and then they won't know that it takes a couple hours to kick in and they might be driving around. That's your whole argument, is fear, an emotional argument. Speaking of emotional arguments, what was that whole thing with the banning abortions only if the kid has Down syndrome or the fetus? That's a total emotional thing right there. And those personal stories you were saying about people getting broadband for like the first time in their life in 2021 and how it's changed their lives. It's like, dude, everything you're saying is an emotional appeal, Kristi. You're lying.
Campaign
In
pitch.
South Dakota, we do not make policy out of fear.
Yes,
We
you
prepare for the
do.
worst, but we always remain optimistic that the best is yet to come.
Think of the children.
Yeah. The best is yet to come. So when we have dispensaries, Kristi, just remember that last sentence you just said right there.
We continue to get good news about South Dakota's revenue situation. Ongoing general fund revenues are up tens of millions of dollars compared to late in the last fiscal year. A similar story can be found in the agricultural industry. The blizzards and the flooding of 2019 prevented nearly 4 million of our 19 million acres from being planted. The result was a 24% decrease in corn production and 36% loss in soybeans from 2018. But USDA is forecasting that corn production is going to grow by 31% from last year, with yields estimated to increase to record highs. Soybeans also had a banner year, with overall production forecasts to grow to 53%. So this is very good news because our agricultural industry is critically important. Our farmers and our producers not only feed their families, they also serve as a catalyst for our economy. In July, the reforms that we made to standardize and to streamline the permitting process took place. The result is a more competitive and an attractive environment for ag business. To date, I am pleased to report that we had 23 new ag projects resulting in more than 320 new jobs across the state of South Dakota.
Did she just brag about 320 new jobs?
Yeah, so she's talking about factory farms or something, obviously. How farming is becoming more corporate and, bigger corporations are buying up all the farmland.
Well, how could that happen once Republicans have been in control for like the last 2 decades?
I just want to know where we're going to get some tax breaks because here you are talking about revenues at an all-time high.
Yeah.
So maybe we need a rebate. Maybe we need a stimulus check from old Kristi Nolan, huh?
We've got guests. We got a caller coming in. Lisa Marie Nolan is the former chair of the Minnehaha County Libertarian Party, Minnehaha County. How are you doing, Lisa?
You're on mute.
You're on mute. You're still on mute.
This is my first Zoom call, digital virtual call. Not like we just came on, walked through a pandemic.
We're professionals. This is StreamYard.
That's right. I just came on for this. There's like this next part, and then there's a good part in like 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna pop in. I like it.
We were just talking about the possibility of Kristi Nolan stimulus checks. What do you think about?
There's going to be a lot of really interesting things that could be. There's all this one-time money that is kind of just out there for people to be looking at and figuring out what they want to do there. Lots of it.
All right, let's keep going.
But even with all of this good news, we need to continue to bolster our largest industry. And that's why the ag investments I proposed in my budget address are so crucial. The meat processing grants, the investment in the Dakota Events Complex, the creation of a program to give farmers more opportunity to market South Dakota meat products, and the merger of the Departments of Agriculture and Diener II. Each of these items will help reinvigorate our #1 industry and all of the families that it serves for so many years to come. And as we look towards the year ahead, I'm also excited to report to you that there's a light
Who's this guy on the left? Holy cow.
That would
No
have been
pun.
me if I was elected.
No pun intended.
Light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to our fight with COVID-19. Now, South Dakota is leading the nation in dispersing the COVID vaccine. In just over a month, tens of thousands of people across the state have received their first dose. Now, this is a testament to the incredible work that the team of the Department of Health and all of our medical professionals are doing. We should not be surprised. Our medical professionals stepped up in all kinds of unforeseen ways in 2020, and their stories deserve to be told. Take, for example, what has happened the last month or so in Wagner. Just before Christmas, the CEO of Wagner Community Memorial Hospital shared some really outstanding news about the work that his team has been doing. They used an outpatient, innovative COVID-19 therapy to treat patients, including 30 residents in the nursing home. In total, more than 80 patients ranging in age from 50 to 104 have received this treatment without having to take up any hospital beds. 78 of those 80 patients have recovered. Now, yes.
Clap. Please clap.
There's a similar story that has taken place here in Pierre. Dr. Daryl Plumage
It would
normally
have been
works
good
at the
if you
clinic
had
in
that.
town.
You could just mix in every once in a while. The please
Yeah.
clap clip.
Or maybe just a applause sign.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm annoyed how she doesn't mention Sioux Falls like one time, I don't think, in this entire thing, and it really annoys me. We're like the largest city in the state, like a quarter of the population of South Dakota, and we get ignored. We're always getting ignored.
But when COVID hit, he and his team turned their attention away from the clinic to acute COVID care, and that included the Adventera Pierre facility. Every single resident in the Adventera facility is considered high risk. Of the 53 residents, 52 tested positive for the virus after a staffer unknowingly brought it into the facility. But like so many other long-term care facilities, the residents weren't the only issue. Half of the staff tested positive as well. Now, at times, Dr. Plumage and his team ended up working around the clock. During one stretch, some staff worked 12-hour days for 22 days straight. Despite being understaffed and overworked, this team was determined to handle the acute care needs of these residents. Admitting 52 people to the hospital in Pierre would have overwhelmed that facility. So Dr. Plumage and his team treated them at Adventera. The expectation was that half of the students or half of the residents would not survive. That number ended up being far less because of the work of Dr. Plumage and his team. 70% of the Adventera residents recovered from the virus. Now, these stories
Applause.
These stories are not unique to Pierre and Wagner. What these medical professionals have done over the last 9 months to battle this virus is nothing short of remarkable. So with us today are the Wagner Hospital CEO, Brian Slaba is up here. Would you please stand? Dr. Plumage is here with some of his team members as well, if they would all stand. Would you please give them a round of applause for all of their efforts to the healthcare professionals?
So one of the biggest significant things with these two stories is they wouldn't have happened had we not changed some of that regulation. So that's kind of feeds in that whole narrative of you have got to let up on some of that regulation so that medical professionals can do what they do best.
Yeah.
And that's, we so often get in the way. And so that's like probably one of the biggest things you'll hear out of those two. And then she talks about something else coming up too with telehealth. Sorry for the spoiler alert, but like listen for that too in there, because that like bringing back that regulation is one of those things that we should be keeping permanent.
Yeah, let's keep the regulations off the table now that they are.
I can't remember whose quote it was, but they had a good quote where they basically said, if you can eliminate a regulation during times of crisis, then you didn't need that regulation.
Yeah,
period.
at all.
Like if getting rid of it alleviates a problem, then why would you ever have it? You know?
Guess it's just you and me, Greg.
Yeah, I guess. Jeez, what are we gonna do? I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, let's go. Keep going.
What you did, what your teams did, what all medical professionals have done across the state deserves recognition. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless you for your work. We also made sure
God
that our
bless
approach to care for South
everyone.
Dakotans was holistic, that we focused on physical well-being, but also on mental health. In February 2020, the Department of Health worked with several other groups to focus on suicide prevention this year. Our 605 Strong initiative connected South Dakotans fighting mental health issues with trained crisis counselors. This initiative proved critical in the face of a global pandemic. In 2020, we have seen our suicides decline. Now, another tool.
Wait, we got an applause. Here we go.
So on this part too, where they talk about the mental health,
tool
is
that we
another
greatly
area
expanded
when
access.
they let down a lot of those restrictions around counseling and mental health, being able to do that by telehealth. That was another huge impact of that, was more people had access. And so they made it easier. I heard somebody, a counselor recently, call it the Wild West of medical or healthcare or mental health professionals, because they can do so much now and there's not too much regulation to keep it down. So they've had better results. So like you can point to different things or maybe an initiative, but you could also point to just better access to care for mental health during a crazy time. And the fact that we didn't shut down, I'm sure it's so huge. I have a friend in Michigan who they were just about to open up restaurants. And so they had a kind of a thing planned to celebrate that. He was actually going to see friends that he hadn't seen.
Yeah.
And then they just came out with this February 1st. They're going to shut him down again until February 1st. It's just been taking a huge toll on his mental health because he's, if you're a single guy and you've been in your apartment for a year almost.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a huge thing too. That fact that we didn't shut down and the fact that we actually have better access to the mental health care.
Yeah, I think we forget sometimes that
Well, thanks
we
for
actually
public.
had it good. We actually have it good because some states have really went overboard.
Yeah.
With
I
shutdowns.
forget.
Well, thank you, Republicans, for deregulating things finally. Now that there's a huge pandemic, you actually did what you
February.
say you're going to do in all your campaigns, but never do. All right, let's keep going.
As to is telehealth. So since March, people have used tech services like these more than 70,000 times in South Dakota's Medicaid program alone. This year, I'm going to ask you to support legislation to make these flexibilities permanent. In 2021, we should build on telehealth advancements and continue to find ways to remove government red tape in healthcare. And lastly, on healthcare, I want to provide an update on the state's work to curtail substance abuse. We know that drug and alcohol abuse can destroy a family. And even though this kind of challenge can happen anywhere,
and so can the government.
Yeah. Throwing them in
really
prison definitely destroys the family.
Like they're literally trying to help families by destroying them also. So it's not even really help, like, at all.
A lot in key areas of our state, including our tribal communities. Earlier this year, the third annual State Tribal Meth Summit was held virtually in partnership with the Department of Tribal Relations and the Department of Social Services. These summits are a bedrock in bringing state and tribal healthcare providers and leaders together. The state stands ready to work with our tribes in all South Dakota communities to combat substance abuse. And as we look to improve the overall health and well-being of every South Dakotan, recreation is a key part of that.
Do you notice they didn't applaud her after that last statement?
That's because the only time the state's willing to
Last
work with
year,
the
social
tribes is when you're enforcing drug laws.
Yeah.
We're more than willing to work with the state, with the tribes on, these drug substance abuse problems. It's like, yeah, but your solution is throw them in prison. So
yeah, that's literally the solution. We're gonna throw you in prison. We're gonna take your kids. We're gonna send them to foster parents. They may or may not be child molesters. We don't really regulate that much, and we're gonna brag about it at the State of the Union next year about how awesome we are.
Well, I will say though that the tribes have actually asked the state for help in combating meth or substance abuse. So it isn't 100% their fault, but
Mhm.
I don't like their methods.
We there was no standing ovation for the telehealth, which there should have been, but I just put her quote in the chat because I think that's so huge. We only have access to the telehealth that we do now, to the level that we do, because she had an executive order that opened up different things with telehealth. Like there was a regulation where you couldn't see a doctor by telehealth if you hadn't already seen that doctor at some other point in time, like you hadn't established care with that doctor.
We do medical billing, me and my wife, and so one of the things about telehealth is one of the rules about it is for like Medicaid, Medicare, is that if you're not an established patient, they don't pay for that visit because you're technically not supposed to be seen by telehealth unless you're an established patient. And I mean, I kind of get the idea behind that because if you're meeting a doctor for refills on medications or something like that, and that doctor has never seen you before, that's kind of an issue. So I kind of understand the regulation. But one thing I was going to say.
Give us your card, Greg.
Yeah.
Give me your card.
One thing I was going to say too, though, is
I'm going to mute you, Greg. You're censored. Just kidding.
I don't know how much they can do locally. You might know a little bit. You said there was some executive orders, but when it comes to like Medicare and Medicaid, that stuff's all done at the federal level, and pretty much whatever rules they make for that is just kind of what everyone follows.
Yeah, so they had to pass legislation at the federal level, and that they also had to do some things at the state level. But open up, like there's, you can't have providers come across state lines. So if you were in Brandon and you wanted to talk to a doctor that was in Laverne, or maybe your specialist was over in Laverne, you wouldn't be able to do that normally. So a lot of that kind of stuff had to be waived too. But so there's opportunity to make it permanent. So that's what she's kind of talking about there. And at least, so here's the other thing too with medical, and I think we've all talked about it maybe in the last one, but that Medicaid expansion is coming. They're starting to do pushes for it now. So, and they've got committees formed to have it be a ballot initiative. So that Medicaid expansion fight is going to be coming. And this is the time before that to start pointing out the positive reforms that we can do around more innovation in healthcare and more, less regulation. And then, so you pointed out outcomes like this. Though there are parts I wasn't all that excited about in the state of the state, this is one that I thought was like a good foundation for stuff we want to talk about to fight that Medicaid expansion later.
Yeah. All right. Continue.
Created a great opportunity for South Dakotans to get outside. Nature and the outdoors provided our families an escape from the pandemic. Because South Dakotans and our state remained open and we didn't lock down, more Americans from out of state came to enjoy our natural spaces too. We had roughly 8 million
super spreaders,
our state parks, which was an increase of more than 30% from 2019.
Actually, positive for 2 seconds.
Surpassed 2 million visits this year for the first time.
The other day, there was actually kind of a big announcement, but it kind of went unnoticed. Like I thought people would be a lot more excited about it, but anyway, so for those that haven't heard, Freedom Fest, which is like an annual liberty-oriented convention conference. They have a lot of guest speakers, a lot of booths, events, blah blah blah. Pretty much all the big names in the greater, not necessarily just libertarians, but in the greater liberty movement, all the big names go to this conference. Anyway, but they moved their yearly conference from Las Vegas to Rapid City. So it's going to be in Rapid City this July. And so I thought that was awesome. But I just when I made that joke about super spreaders, I on the article, it was posted in the Rapid City Journal where I read this, and all the comments underneath the post were just bashing. We're just like, super spreaders. Oh, great. We're going to have all these people coming here and just spreading corona. And, I just thought that was a little bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. But
You remember that federal judge that a couple weeks ago, I think South Dakota got sued because they weren't getting their court cases done fast enough. So they got, I think it was like a right to speedy trial court case. This federal judge said that South Dakota had no excuse for not getting trials done fast enough because we're all super spreaders here and we don't care about trying to stop COVID and it's their own fault. We got ourselves in this mess. I was like, what the hell is with this goddamn lecture from the federal courts?
Well, it is weird because and I haven't been in trouble in a long time, so I don't know what the current climate of the court system in South Dakota is. But it is weird because I read an article the other day about this guy that's awaiting trial for murder in Sioux Falls, and his lawyers had come out and said that they couldn't defend him essentially due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just
I read that too.
What are you talking about? Like what?
Yeah, they said they needed more. They said they needed more time. They said they needed at least like a year or two to prepare their. Just because they can't they can't go out and investigate because they're afraid of COVID and stuff, so they don't want to be out interviewing people and gathering evidence for their defense.
Well, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so those guys got to sit in jail for a couple of years while his defense attorney is. Well, I guess I don't know if they won their argument or not.
I think they did delay it a year or something like that.
Yeah,
but I just don't get because we didn't shut down, and so there's very little COVID restrictions other than a lot of cities have passed mask ordinances.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know what the delay.
Maybe they're just trying to make something up to get more time because they're like, "Oh fuck, we gotta get this guy out for murder." Probably stressful. Okay, continuing.
Ever. We saw increases in youth and first-time hunters. We also saw a record number of licenses for youth mentored hunting. We saw huge increases in youth combo licenses, as well as resident and non-resident fishing licenses. So getting our youth to put down the Xbox and to pick up the tackle box has been a priority of mine.
If it's such a priority, why do we need a license to go fishing and hunting? I mean, aren't those things that are preventing people from putting down their Xbox and getting a tackle box, being the South Dakotan way, going fishing, going hunting?
I would say the state of South Dakota has absolutely no business promoting any license.
Yeah, that's not the government's job.
Whether that's an Xbox or whether that's going out and fishing. See, that's the problem when you start regulating stuff and you start, you create these fishing and hunting licenses. And guess what? A couple of years ago, hunting licenses were way down. Well, that's revenue for the state. So the state doesn't like that. So the state wants to promote fishing and hunting, but not for any real particular reason other than they want you to buy a fishing and hunting license. Yeah.
And if our populations go down at all, then we can use taxpayer money to bring it back up. So that's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
For many years. In March.
Oh, let's applaud her Xbox comment. Ooh.
In March, we had a young lady named Savannah Hendricks, who's a junior high school student from Vivian, who had a great idea. And she's here with us today, if she would stand. With the goal of getting out in the field more with her family, Savannah created a petition urging the Game Fish and Parks Commission to extend the youth pheasant season from 5 to 9 days. At the May meeting, the commission adopted Savannah's proposal. It is my hope that more young...
Someday that's going to be me up there, and they're going to be like, thank you, Devin, for getting all those signatures for Amendment A. and Initiative 26.
Someday,
You're
maybe
just
next
so
year.
good. Yeah.
Wait, Devin, I just have to say I like Greg's like senior picture backslash. I didn't notice it before when he was in the
I
shot.
like it. He's got a nice little studio going on
Yeah.
over there now.
Yeah, maybe when all the revenue starts going in or something, maybe then like you'll be brought up.
I'll
for
be
the
invited.
State
Me
of
and all the
State.
other petitioners, we can stand up there and get the free applause and make us feel good.
Greg, I have to say this while you're here because I just made a comment about your backslash, your senior picture backslash.
We like your background.
Who?
Yours.
Yours.
My background.
Yeah.
Just carry on.
Lisa.
It's just the way the lights hit the wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It looks like a high school senior picture, like not maybe senior pictures. Those are like the fancy ones, but maybe like
It's picture
school,
day.
like a school picture. You know, when you got the weird gray thing in the
Yeah.
back.
No, it's just the stupid reflections from the light. But out here in the dining room is the best light in the house. So
It comes off as very artsy.
well, I try.
People like Savannah will get involved. They'll find new
I was just saying that's going to be me someday. She's getting praise for petitioning to increase the youth hunting season from 5 days to 9 days. Wow, what a hero. Way to defend my rights.
Stunning and brave.
new ways to secure South Dakota's outdoor heritage for the next generation. So Savannah,
What about trans
thank you
youth?
for the work you did to
Is there a
make a
trans
difference
youth
for our
hunting
and
day?
getting them outside. It's my hope that you and your story will serve as an example to all South Dakotans to get involved in our policy making. Thank you.
What about all the petitioners that petitioned for Amendment A that you're crapping on right now? We were standing out in the rain, in the snow, walked uphill both ways to get one signature.
I don't think she's going to give you a standing ovation.
No. All right, we'll give that
Yes.
I can't lie. I still see it.
Thank you. Really?
So we're going to continue to find ways to create more hunting and fishing opportunities.
Man, wouldn't it be cool if like she would have trolled that whole fucking group and had like a poster that was like end the lawsuit now, Kristi, like whipped it up like right what they were applauding her for like an extended amount of time. Like an awkwardly long
For
time.
our state for those that are young and old. This year, I'm asking the legislature to adopt simpler licensure requirements for kids under the age of 18. The goal is to get more people engaged at an early age so they continue those experiences long into their adulthood. This is one of the reasons why I have so heavily emphasized the importance of the bounty program. Over the last 2 years, nearly 4,300 people participated in the Nest Predator Bounty Program, many being youth and first-time trappers. They have removed roughly 81,000 nest predators. That's a great thing for our pheasant numbers.
Boo.
We're just getting started.
Paying people to kill animals.
Yeah, dude, that's so draconian. Okay, let's stop messing with Mother Nature and let her do her thing. Come on.
And if it's a problem for farmers, then the farmers will take care of it. They don't need...
Damn pheasant isn't even a native bird to South Dakota. It's a Chinese goddamn invasive species. If anything, we should be shooting all the pheasants and kill them all and bring back actual native South Dakotan wildlife. That's not foreign. Goddamn China getting involved with everything.
Most of our pheasant population is literally from pheasant farms.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy that did this for years. He goes around and he gives tours to these out-of-state hunters, and they pay him hundreds of dollars to do this over the course of a weekend. But all he does is he just goes to this farm where he buys the pheasants, he releases them in a field, and then he takes these guys out to hunt these pheasants. And like,
oh my God, man, this is just so lame.
I mean, I'm not against it, but the government, again, really has no business in promoting that. Like the free market. You have pheasant farmers out there that will promote this themselves because that's how they make a living. We don't need the government to do it.
Exactly, dude. Like, if you get the government involved in advertising, pretty soon they're just going to be advertising that we're all on meth, and they usually come here and shoot our state bird.
Long-time hunters say that they have never seen as many roosters as they did this year. So that's good news for our state, for our future, and to continue to get folks to come here, visit us, and help us kill our state bird.
Oh my God.
Help us kill our state bird.
Oh, that awkward.
Hunters are not the only people who come to our state.
That nervous laugh. I was about to say it. Why don't you just let us have dispensaries and then people will come to South Dakota too? Like, why do we have to kill our state bird to get people to come to South Dakota? That's so weird. And it's weird that how she made a little joke about it. It's like, I mean, I was just arguing 5 seconds ago that I wanted to kill every state bird because it's not even a native species of South Dakota. But when she says it now, I got to be against it.
As I mentioned, this was a challenging year for tourism, but South Dakota has outperformed almost every single other state in the country in this category. Our visitor inquiries have skyrocketed, and one thing is clear. Folks from all across the country want to visit South Dakota. In 2021, we are going to build on this momentum. We're going to ensure that we continue to grow. Our tourism department will be working on a new strategic plan to guide its overall efforts for the next several years to take advantage of the huge amount of interest that we have received. This includes enhancing our promotion.
Why don't you tell the highway patrol to stop arresting people that forget they have gummies from Colorado in their car visiting us? Because you throw those people in jail, you take their car. It's like you're not promoting tourism when you do that kind of crap. And it happens often.
We talked last time on the civil asset forfeiture about, I don't know if I said this piece or not, but around Sturgis, they put that card table outside the little table, whatever, outside the jail, and they just kind of collect and collect. Like, that's not good for business.
Targeting key demographics that have an interest in our parks, our history, our culture, and our great outdoors. Given that 3 of our state's rodeos were recently chosen as the very best in the country by the National Finals Rodeo and the
rodeos.
PRCA,
Oh my God.
we will also be
Let's start
improving our
clapping now.
facilities for hosting equestrian and rodeo events. We know that our state has the potential to be the best place in the country for some of these events, and we want to capitalize on those opportunities in the years ahead. These
No applause.
this
Oh,
complements
interesting.
the department's ongoing work with agritourism and the First
Because why
Gentleman's
does the
Small
state
Town
have anything
Initiative to get
do with
visitors
it?
off
It's
the
like,
beaten
that's
path.
great
Yeah.
that you're
Experience all
bragging
the-
about all this shit about South Dakota.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that you're bragging about it, but most of these accomplishments have absolutely nothing to do with the state of the state. Other than it really just goes back to, well, she didn't shut down. I mean, if that's the only thing you can really.
And no income tax. Like, our budgeting is on point, but that's all still. I mean, we're all still talking about taxpayer dollars in that whole conversation too.
Yeah. I bet Kristi Nolan would pass an income tax if it was like right in front of her and she knew she had the votes. She just pretend she's a grifter. That's what I think.
So this is super interesting, and I'll double check, but she actually had signed a pledge when she started that she would not raise taxes. So legislators can kind of go into session and go like, well, if there's a tax raise on this, I can assume it's going to be vetoed. But it would be really interesting, like based on that, to see what legislation may have been passed and signed off on that had a tax increase just because of the pledge.
Right. If she's not signing the NAP, then that's not the pledge. I don't even care about her any pledges she's making.
Our tourism department continues to make steady progress working with tribal partners around the state. They lay the groundwork to enhance tribal tourism on our reservations. And every visitor that we welcome to our state has an impact that resonates. Their visits help support good jobs, lifelong careers for South Dakotans. Their spending benefits our small businesses, and the tax revenue that they generate goes right back into our communities, and it helps keep this state the best place to live in America.
How about stop taxing people and just let them keep our money? Because the money is getting into our communities by them just spending money here. Like you're basically taking more money from the business owners and everything when you're taxing the customer. You know, like what are you talking about? Why does there need to be a middleman between money getting to the community?
Well, and what was the other part I was gonna say about that? Around when they do just carve out tax, so they'll say, if this business comes here, we'll carve out and we won't charge them taxes. Like, do you think that Amazon's land's going to be taxed?
Probably not, dude. They're probably giving all kinds of special deals.
Yeah, so I mean that's still corporate welfare because small businesses oftentimes don't have that same option. So we talk about tourism and bringing these companies here and all this stuff, and we do it oftentimes with those promises that we don't extend to our own local people.
Exactly.
And we applaud it.
Yeah, there's Aaron Aylward applauding and pointing that out right there.
I can't lie, you guys. I was there, and I stood on some things.
Oh, you were there when this happened? That's awesome.
It was up just where one of the back cameras was, and I didn't like standing up because at one point I went to go sit back down and I knocked my head super hard on the arch. And I said, I'm done with this standing business. But the next part coming up is where I thought I'd be so excited. This is where I was going to really, focus on with her speech is when she starts talking about education. But you'll see she flips it into something we're not going to like pretty quickly. So she at least introduces innovation and things like that. But
let's see here.
One of the main reasons our tourism numbers have been so strong this year is the resilience of our people and our small businesses. The South Dakotans who run these small businesses inspire all of us. And our businesses will have a better chance of success if South Dakota students have excellent educational opportunities. Everyone in this room knows that a good education starts in the home. It starts with strong families. We have decades of research that shows us that families are the most critical influence on a child's success in the classroom. COVID-19 underscored just how involved parents need to be in their children's day-to-day education. It's our duty to find innovative solutions that empower parents to set up their children for success. This includes improving civic education for our kids. Students should be taught our nation's history and all that makes America unique.
Anybody have any comments?
Students should be taught our bloody revolutionary history.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you want to talk about South Dakota's history for real, I mean, let's see. We basically stole everything we have here from people that already lived here.
So here's what
what history is she trying to talk about? Just just the goody two shoes part of it, or is she going to talk about the real history?
Well, and that's the thing. So I'm spoiler alerting it, but she's going to talk about. We'll jump back to it after. But that comment you made about what's she going to teach them? That's exactly the question we should ask. Is
whose history? The South Dakota government's official history. Because that's littered with bullshit.
So the opportunities she could have talked about in this part, and the phrase that she said, it's our duty to find innovative solutions that empower parents to set their children up for success. That's the foundational line that I would use for talking about letting parents choose what the best pathway is for their child for schooling, for education. Because she talks about how COVID underscored how parents need to be involved.
Yeah.
And then talking about innovation. And most of the things we do around regulation, and I would say both regulate, well, I guess it's all regulation, but we put that on parents. There are actually some counties that can say you could apply for homeschooling. You have to apply, get permission. So they can
get rid of that.
Right. They can say no. And so, I mean, that's the thing. Is there so many opportunities for us to open up those different pathways and celebrate that, because every kid learns different. But we don't really go there in this discussion. I would just set that as a foundational phrase.
Yeah.
So when we start pushing on educational stuff, even if we're jumping into that with the party at all, we can say things like, empower families or empower parents, do something where we're highlighting the fact that there should be innovation. But the other thing, it's interesting because sometimes when you talk with legislators, you can say, we shouldn't be legislating local, even public education. We shouldn't be legislating that from Washington. And they'll all, most
they're all
of the time,
about it, like, woo, and the Board of Education. But now when it's Kristi saying we need the state of South Dakota's government to get involved with every student and make sure that we teach them the right history.
Well,
After she just praised families being the most important thing in a child's education, you're just taking that right from the family and you're making it a public state education mandated thing.
That's what I was going to be excited about talking about, Devin. But you're exactly right. but that piece, at least, when you say they shouldn't be legislating from Washington, they're all about it. But then you add or peer, and then there's a little bit more trepidation because that means you guys too. Like, it shouldn't be legislated from the federal or the state level. If you're going to still have a public education, and no, we're not all about that, but if you're going to do that or you're going to take those steps, at least bring it down to a local level to allow for more innovation versus they still want to make the decisions even in peer. So yeah, okay, this next part's good.
They should see firsthand the importance of civic engagement, and they should have robust discussions in the classroom so they can develop critical thinking skills. Our young people need more experience engaging with elected officials and practicing the art of the debate. It is also our responsibility to show them how government works, and here's how. I have tasked my administration with creating instructional materials.
You've been showing us how the government works, Kristi.
How does it work? Please, how does government?
It works by overturning the will of the voters and
passing unconstitutional legislation that will get challenged.
Yeah.
That's how government works.
Materials and classroom resources on America's founding, our nation's history, and the state's history. We must also do a better job educating teachers on these three subjects. Through all of this, our common mission and key objective needs to be explaining why.
Devin, can you go back a teensy bit? Right when we're talking, she mentions where she has tasked the state with creating curriculum, which is what we're referring to.
Like 30 seconds.
Teaching teachers.
And practicing the art of the debate. It is also our responsibility to show.
Is that back far enough? Hello. Just play it. Okay.
Them how government works, and here's how. I have tasked my administration with creating instructional materials and classroom resources on America's founding, our nation's history, and the state's history. We must also do a better job educating teachers on these three subjects.
So she's got Governor Kristi task force. He's going to teach everybody in South Dakota the right version of the history, non-debatable. This is going to be the new gospel of Nome. The good news is going to be spread from peer, and we're all going to be on the same page, and we're all going to live happily ever after, and we're not going to have any more weed, and we're going to kill our state bird, and we're going to have lots of rodeos. Cannot wait.
When did you get in her cabinet? But isn't that fascinating? And then coming up is where oh gosh, I'm still jumping at, but it's the standing ovation for, we're going to create a state curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
If there was somebody else in power that you didn't like what they wanted to teach, can you imagine? That's the phrase that you hear all the time is government indoctrinating our students in the public schools. That's what government does. But now we're talking about government created curriculum and celebrating it.
So,
we're not.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
So I was reading this post. It's supposedly it's a editorial from Kristi Noem or whatever, but it's almost word for word with this State of the Union. But I didn't think she had said this part, where she's talking about every American has the right to peacefully protest. That right ends where violence begins. We saw a similar situation play out on Capitol Hill a few days ago. We
Yeah.
were all appalled by it. Frankly, it was horrible to watch. Today, we have an opportunity to address the root cause of this problem. We must reform young Americans' civic education. And so, me and Devin were kind of talking about that before the broadcast, that you really can't compare the two, because it's like you're saying you're appalled by these people, and this isn't necessarily promoting what happened at the Capitol, but you're saying you're appalled by what happened at the Capitol, but yet you're trying to say that we need to educate children on the history of this country.
Yeah, what did that have to do with that?
Well,
They have
that's
nothing to do with each other.
well, they do have something to do with each other. Our country was fucking born on revolution.
Yeah.
Revolution, blood in the streets, kick the British the fuck out of the country over taxation. Over taxation.
And they tortured people with that tar and feathering stuff, like killed those people. And it was like, it took a couple of days for them to die.
So to me, it's kind of
It
weird.
was dark, Devin.
I know, sorry.
But it's just weird for me to hear her talk about, well, we need to educate the children about how our country was formed.
Mhm.
Well, our country was formed by revolt. That's how our country is formed. So I guess I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, as the Greg brought this up, is their state committee to teach everybody the right South Dakotan history gonna teach the history of the Custer courthouse being stormed into because they wouldn't arrest somebody that killed a Native American? Probably not. We're not gonna get any of that.
Yeah, it was 19. I think it was 73. I got it.
Well, I think weren't we talking once? I think over at your house, Devin, about like Japanese internment camps. I think I was talking to you guys about this, where I didn't even learn in the public school system, at least. I wasn't taught about Japanese internment camps until my sophomore year of high school. And it wasn't because it was in somebody's curriculum. It was because he wanted to make sure we knew about it.
Yeah, they don't want to teach us the stuff that is the dirty secrets, the dirty laundry of America. It's like, yo, no, history needs to be pure, and like every little detail, that even the stuff we don't like, needs to be taught. It's not Kristi Nolan's Republican or rodeo history extravaganza. His plan is not gonna help anything. Okay, let's keep going.
Through all of this, our common mission and key objective needs to be explaining why the United States of America is the most special nation in the history
The most
of the world.
special nation.
They call it American exceptionalism.
Oh, you're so special. We can't even
Stand up for that special.
It's like, man, we just had a big riot at the Capitol building, but I think we're basically the same as every other country now regarding transition of power. It's not going to be pretty. The American way is over.
Somebody said they had a post, and I don't know how true it was or whatever. I didn't fact check it, but it said something like the average government lasts about 250 years. And guess how long we've been?
Yeah, dude, we're getting up there. And you can tell, dude.
Like 247 or something like that.
You can tell it's breaking at the seams. I predict that every election now, presidential election, is going to result in a protest at the Capitol or the White House or wherever. Like, I don't think we're going to go back to where it was just chill.
They've pretty much contested every election result since 2000.
Yeah.
In
it's getting worse and worse. It gets worse and worse and more radical every time.
In 2000, it was like a court case in Florida that decided the Bush-Gore thing. And then I forget 2008, but the same thing, somebody laid it all out. And then 2016, the Democrats said it was a rigged election. In 2020, because Trump lost, he said it was a rigged election. And I personally, whenever they would talk about somebody refusing to concede the results, type of deal, I always kind of thought that was bullshit. It's like, Nah, nobody will ever do that. Like, they used to write articles like 2 years ago that, what if Trump, and they used to do the same thing when Obama was in office. They're like, what if he doesn't concede the election? And what if he just tries to keep himself in power? And I always thought that was bullshit. But then, honestly, you've seen what happened this year.
Yeah, pretty expose how fragile I think Capitol building security is, at least. All right, I'm gonna play this. I will be right back, so I won't be here to pause it. But I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
With this knowledge as a foundational building block, every South Dakotan can then chart their own path to their future. Our technical colleges, our universities, all of our higher education opportunities give them an excellent chance. Now, South Dakota's technical colleges have received national awards, attention, and funding for the high-quality programs that they offer.
This was kind of a weird one.
All four
where
of our
she talks
campuses
about
are in the top 4% of the
paying
country
for people's
for upward
top
mobility.
technical degree
Students who graduate
as
from
long
our
as they
colleges
stay in
are
South
fully
Dakota for
equipped
X
high
number of
demand
years.
technical careers
And
the moment that they
how's that
receive their
not
diploma.
like
This
socialism?
woman named Vanessa is
Well,
a student
yeah,
who
it's those principles that if you were to put that in the hands of the party that you didn't like, which for us
an incredibly
Yeah.
hard
is
worker.
different, but
Vanessa is graduate this spring
you
and
wouldn't
already
like the
top
same
lineup
thing.
this
You wouldn't like hearing the same thing,
Our
and it's
technical
that's
colleges are full of
oh,
stories
kitty
like
cats.
Vanessa's.
Yeah,
South
that's
But
Dakota
yeah,
can
that's the
help
thing
our students
where
to expand these
like they don't.
opportunities moving
You just want to
forward.
like
Last
shake
week,
them and
we
be like,
made
"Don't you
an
understand?
Yeah,
exciting
It's the same
regarding the
thing."
future
it
of
makes
the
me
North
wonder. It's
Dakota
like,
scholarship.
also, is this
Together,
paid
over the
by
next 5
private
years,
grants
we will invest
from
approximately
business
$40
leaders
million
across the
bringing
state?
students for
Because
high
that's kind of
demand
what I
career
think is like. A lot of times
We
in South
also
Dakota,
announced the
you would hear
creation of the
business
Premier
owners
Scholarship,
complain,
a
or not
need-based
necessarily even
scholarship
just in South
endowment
Dakota,
for our
but
state.
they'll complain about a lack of a workforce,
Yep.
but yet do absolutely nothing to develop a workforce.
Mhm.
And then just act like it's the state's responsibility
Mhm.
to figure out where this workforce is going to come from.
Yep.
And it's like, well, no, is this going to be a public-private partnership with Southeast Tech where all these big companies that you're talking about are going to invest in people's educations? Because, uh, you know, in years past or whenever, 30 years ago or et cetera, people that's how they learned trade, it was on the job training.
Mhm.
And now you're just trying to force these people into a school situation, and you're talking about paying for their school. Well, who's paying for that? You know?
Well, and that's the thing too, is like this is one we can bring back to occupational licensing. We can bring back to like stringent, any type of licensing and regulation, because you have people that are leaving South Dakota because of the regulation we have here. When the whole CRNA bill was going out last year, that was one of the biggest or most compelling story that you would hear. There was a guy who's a nurse anesthetist, and he'd say, well, I can go to Iowa and I can practice, and I'm recognized as a legitimate care provider doing anesthesiology, and then they come back to their home in South Dakota and they no longer have that same recognition. So obviously that bill passed last year. It was Senate Bill 50, but that's the whole idea around deregulating some of those where you have a CRNA, it's within their scope of practice. You had to put forth legislation to let them practice what they already know. But it's a hindrance, and people leave South Dakota because of it, because they can go somewhere else where they have less restriction, and they can learn their craft and they can practice. So
There's
that's another.
There's a guy that actually joined one of our group chats the other day that moved here from New York, that said he's a recruiter for the medical industry. And that's exactly what they're recruiting for, is that CRNA position.
That's really good, because now they can. Before, what CRNA would have wanted to come here? I mean, they wouldn't have been able to practice or do half the things that they want to do. So that's a huge barrier. And you could sit there and give somebody money and hold it over their head so that they can't leave the state or they have to pay it back. Or you could just make the environment more friendly for people who want to stay here.
It's exactly right. You said that so eloquently, like way more eloquently
you
than
so
I
much.
would be able to.
No, I think you say things very well. I just think that was like the thing I heard the most. There was a gal that wanted to practice, I told you guys this a couple weeks ago, but wanted to practice in Pierre and couldn't. Like wanted to be in her hometown and she couldn't. So if you make, we're talking about lane broadband, even I'm just mentioning this still because Greg's gone, but lane broadband in these small towns in rural areas. Well, maybe you just make it easier for people to be able to live there. By backing off unnecessary overregulation. And it makes it easier for people to live in those places instead of having to lure them in with taxpayer money.
Yeah.
We can continue.
Denny and the Premier Center have already delivered a check for $50 million and have pledged another 50. I have pledged another $50 million going forward.
Denny Sanford, the guy that had child porn on his computer that story completely died, who's being represented by Marty Jackley, the former attorney general that was involved with the Meddy rape case. That Denny Sanford, I would have just given him his money back. Be like, this is blood money, you sicko. And why is he not in jail? Why did that story die? Who's protecting this guy? He owns everything in this goddamn state. He's like the only billionaire that lives here. He's got a goddamn statue of him on freaking 14th Street.
Well, now you're getting shut down, Devin. But here's what I didn't catch.
This episode is brought to you by Sanford Health.
Those are the opinions of Devin Saxon alone. They don't reflect. But this part, she just finished saying it, but she said, Denny's going to do 50 million. And then she said, I'm pledging 50 million. And then Denny's doing another 50 million, and now they're looking for one more 50 million. And she's basically asking the legislature to kind of help come up with that other 50 million. Here's what I don't get. When she says, well, she'll explain it better than me. But she says, I pledged 50 million. And she does mean like I as in taxpayers, right? Like you guys didn't hear that as she personally. It means like
she's the
I
queen
as
now.
government.
That's her treasury. That's her purse. And we should just be grateful for the privilege of having this awesome dear leader that we have in Kristi Nolan, protecting us, making sure that we kill our state bird, helping other people kill our state bird.
Listen, you guys tell me when you hear it. Like, does it sound like she's saying her? She's not saying her, right? She's saying I pledge, like the legislature, like taxpayer money, right?
Let's find out.
Forward. I'm asking for your support in this, and they will match it with another 50 in the future. This was one-time money that will be transformational in a gift to needs-based students to help them with their educations. The Premier Scholarship requires that.
Or did she say it already, or is it coming up?
Oh, she said the first part, like right before I said that. She just said, Denny is pledging 50, I am pledging 50, and then she goes on to talk about the rest.
Yeah, it kind of did sound like she said I. Let me go back.
So it's only half socialism. It's just half.
Just half.
No, because there's a public-private partnership. So we're only funding. Honestly, this is the exact same argument for people that are for Medicaid expansion. Well, we're losing out on all this federal funding. You realize it wouldn't cost the state that much. You realize that we're losing all this money. The federal government's agreed to cover X amount of dollars. And if we just match that, like it's the exact same freaking thing, I mean,
you would be amazed.
That's why government, if you actually pay attention to this stuff, I used to have a full head of hair.
Government took it away.
And now it's on my chin.
I pulled it out over the years.
The idea of Greg's old hair now being on your chin, Devin, is disturbing. And I hope I don't dream about that tonight. Like
this is the history of South Dakota that people need to know.
That's what you're going to teach. But it's fascinating to see how many fiscal conservatives will support Medicaid expansion. Like you'll start to see it, and obviously you're seeing it with pretty much anybody connected with the healthcare system, at least the healthcare, you've got Avera and Sanford, so you're big healthcare people, but it's not like it's going to help. Individual nurses and care providers, you will see less support with. But you're talking about major healthcare systems, of course they're going to support it because it's more money. Then you're talking about fiscal conservatives that are like connected to that, and you will be amazed at how many fiscal conservatives you hear within our state legislators supportive of Medicaid expansion. But when you actually compare that to or talk about that, the connection with that and Obamacare, it's different because then they start to see it a little bit for what it is. But that idea of like, if we bring Medicaid expansion in here and we don't start talking about more innovation, then it's not going to matter what healthcare costs. So you're just going to have higher healthcare expenses. I mean, it's going to cost more because we're going to care less about how much it costs because people are going to be on Medicaid. So the same arguments, like you said, can be used for this exactly. And there's a pretty good chance we probably would have to have a state income tax if you did open up Medicaid expansion.
Well, you know what? If people would just put down their Xboxes and picked up tackle boxes, they'd have better health care. Listen to Kristi Nolan. She knows what's best for everybody.
Hopefully they don't get themselves with their tackle.
What if we took, now it's too late to do this now, but what if you took all the taxes that go to cannabis legalization and you just 100% started a South Dakota healthcare plan, and everyone can sign up for it, and it's literally just paid for by pot users.
Sounds like a great idea, Greg, but great ideas need to be banned.
Yeah.
My head's just spinning to think of a name for that.
I've always thought like sales taxes, like I mean, even sin taxes are kind of more of a voluntary tax, because if you don't partake in cannabis, then you don't really give a shit about the tax.
This country was born on sin taxes, god damn it.
Barrel of whiskey.
But don't stop doing it, because now we need the money.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah.
Can you imagine shrinking our government down to the size of where it survives off a whiskey tax again, and that's it? God, that would be great. That's what I want to hear for a State of the State address. Be like, we're getting rid of every tax. We're going to still tax whiskey to be douchebags, but that's it. Like, I think it would legitimately could be done.
And the real libertarians start bootlegging. Bust out the still.
Bust out the still.
For 3 years after graduation. Otherwise, the scholarship turns into a loan. The endowment for this critical scholarship.
Otherwise, the scholarship turns into a loan. Guys, she's such a. The way she.
So now it's a government. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, oh, dude, I don't even know. I just feel like the whip cracking right when she said that. Like, we're gonna keep you here by force of the state.
You know what that said? It said, "I'm not angry. I'm disappointed."
Yeah. But yeah, Lisa said it best when it's like, why don't you just make the conditions in South Dakota better by deregulating things? And then people won't want to leave. One of the big reasons people leave is because they get arrested for stupid crap like weed. Like, that's one of the, like, this is an issue that should have been resolved a long ass time ago. I can't even believe it's 2021. And this is still a debate. We need to move on to other issues.
Yeah, I don't know how many people from my original hometown live in Colorado.
Yeah, like everybody.
Like a lot of people that I went to high school with.
Yeah, exactly.
That I'm friends with on Facebook live in Colorado.
Right? Like, and the reason they moved is because there's not a lot of technical jobs here. And the reason there's not technical jobs here is because technical jobs, people that work on computers and code and write software and all that stuff, they smoke weed. And they want to be able to smoke weed while they're working, god damn it. So let them. So they'll stay here. So Greg can tax it and fund healthcare for South Dakota and make South Dakota great again.
The LSD tax, the Baldwin LSD tax.
Your action will get the fund to $150 million, and together we can get this done.
That guy on the left. Oh my god, that guy. Oh, I paused it too late. Whatever.
In partnership with the Department of Labor, the technical college system also launched the South Dakota Upskill program this fall. This program supports workers dislocated by COVID-19. Upskill consists of 22 online certificate programs in high demand fields, including business, healthcare, information technology, and manufacturing. More than 100 individuals are taking advantage of this assistance. Workforce development remains a top concern for South Dakota companies, and some businesses are tackling this concern by building their own registered apprenticeship programs. In fact, 44 organizations have built registered apprenticeship programs since 2018.
What does
More
she
than
mean by
700 South
registered?
Dakotans are improving their skills through one of these
Government registered, licensed, like, and again, I would just point out that like she's bragging about all these companies have come up with this apprenticeship program. Well, no, pardon my French here, kids leave the fucking room. No fucking shit. Private businesses should be funding this crap.
Yeah.
You want to brag about an apprenticeship program that a private company has fucking created to get new employees? That's what they should be doing. It's not on the government to train fucking employees.
Exactly, it is.
Sorry.
God damn, dude. This government is so huge. An unstoppable force. It needs to be fucking met with an equal opposite reaction.
programs. For example, in Huron, the executive director of Independent Health Solutions built a home health aide registered apprenticeship program. This structured training and mentorship improved their team morale and their confidence.
Hey, wait. I just
No
noticed.
offense, but that's a really low-paying job. A home health person is not a very high-paying or highly skilled job, and of course, you should be you should be training your own people, because nobody should go to school for a year or two and be in debt for a job that honestly would take 20, 30 hours, 40 hours on the job training.
I just noticed something crazy. Did you guys see that eagle behind Kristi Noem in that image? You see that? Oh my God, look at
Does he look disappointed? Like,
just wait a second here. I got some crazy thing to show. Yes, Greg, you spoiled it. God damn it! It's literally the Nazi eagle. Look, look at it. It's the same eagle. Like how it's got the flat wingtips. Now let's go back to the video. Like it's literally it looks like it's identical to it.
Should we start calling Kristi Noem a far right leader? Far right activist Kristi Noem.
She's our dear leader, Greg. You get it right. I'll be reporting you to the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, led by our Attorney General, who's a great man and has committed no crimes ever.
Yeah. Speaking of that, yeah. We're gonna have to do an update show.
I have to jump off because it's bedtime. It's not for me, for my kids. It's story time. But since I won't be on here.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. One thing you'll hear like coming up, they talk about like her big thing. I mean, there's this, there's a tuition program. Oh, veterans. So there's this whole part coming up about veterans. And of course, like a lot of standing ovations and, thank yous to our veterans. But that's another area where just, and this is strictly with my libertarian hat on, I think the idea of that, there's so many things we can do in supporting our veterans, two of which we care hugely about within, that libertarian mindedness and the party itself is the access to medical. Like if you're with Veteran Affairs, you're seen at the VA, you don't have actual access to medical cannabis because at least your doctor can't prescribe it to you because federally it's not legal. So there's not really, you'll be shocked, but there's no talk of this when we talk about how we can serve our veterans that have PTSD and have health issues and chronic pain, that we can let them fight wars, but we can't support them in that effort. And then the other thing we talk about a lot with veterans is the licensing there. So any military personnel, when they come through, South Dakota, they have spouses and family that might be in different states, and they've had to do some deregulation around licensing with spouses of military families. But that's the whole kind of family unit, friends, all those people are going to have the same issue. So those are two things that we could talk about when we're supporting veterans, but they really don't get mentioned a whole lot. So a little more medical freedom with veterans would be huge. So that's a big one. And then just there's like a last sentence in here that I love. If we to be able to take a sentence like this and put it on the issues that we all work on would be, she says, and again, spoiler alert, but I don't have to go. She goes, we found so many ways to work together to maintain the freedoms of our people, promote our outdoor heritage, and rein in the endless expansion of government into daily lives. This year, it is my hope that we'll find even more opportunities to work together, advancing common sense solutions to the problems we can solve on behalf of the people of this great state. So that would be my closing statement, would be, let's keep working on reining in expansive government that gets in the way of living our lives. And so just focus on the ways that we can do that. Because that's, some of those sentences are, that sentence is straight out of her mouth, regardless of what she's talking about. It's a good sentence, but it just means taking her words and then being able to apply them to the issues that we would care about, and not allow that to just kind of be swept under the table as another way that we could serve people in South Dakota. So I love that.
Insightful
sentence.
as always, Lisa. Appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure.
You guys are
Well, thanks for
awesome.
coming on.
You're doing some good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Well, the missionary work that Devin and I do. Spreading the good word.
Of liberty. The real word of liberty, not this corrupted bull crap that Kristi Nolan gives off that people just buy up, dude.
Well, the problem I always have with her, and what irritates me the most about her, is I'll admit, she's good on some things, but she only is good on issues, like there's no principle behind her statements, because she only is good on issues that she cares about. And if she doesn't care about that issue, then liberty and freedom and all that horse shit just goes right out the window.
Yeah. It's not horse shit, Greg. All right, let's see. We've got 10 minutes left.
Leave it to us to make a 45-minute thing take 2 hours. It's not playing the audio.
What's up?
The audio is not coming through.
What the fuck?
We'll just try it again, I guess.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh crap! I gotta find it again. My bad. Technical difficulties here.
So anyway, at the end of the video, she says, "Ma, ma, 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 ma," and all the legislators said, "Yes, ma'am."
Yes, dear leader. How about now?
We all hold dear to our hearts.
Do you hear
It is
audio now?
Yeah.
our veterans and our military. This year, South Dakota was ranked #1 state in America for veterans to live and to work.
Ranked by who? Who did this
What does that
ranking?
even mean?
You know what, Greg? This podcast.
We have expanded the tuition program for
It's the
veterans.
#1 ranked
show
on Sundays
you
at
will ever
7
see.
p.m. This is the #1 podcast on Sundays at 7 p.m. in the 7 p.m. time slot, Central Time, South Dakota.
The history of the universe, man.
To include technical colleges. We've increased property tax exemptions for veterans who have disabilities. We have a tax exemption.
Give us all property tax exemptions, you goddamn money grubbing Nerf herder.
and amputee veterans. We have increased funding at the Hot Springs Veterans Home so that we can take care of more veterans. We also broke ground on the first ever state veterans cemetery in Sioux Falls. These veterans are special members of our state, and they're like family to so many.
Special members of our
yeah,
state. We're the specialist country of all the countries. America.
Nothing like creating second-class citizens.
Many of us in our communities. I'd like to highlight a story to illustrate this point. Jerry Upsall is a veteran who served our country in the United States Air Force. Today, she is the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate Tribal Veterans Service Officer and works with the Department of Veterans Affairs. It is her love of country that guided her to continue down the path of serving our heroes. Now, Jerry has a sincere drive and passion to serve veterans. This year, Jerry was awarded the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs Outreach Officer of the Year Award. And Jerry is with us today. Would you please join me in thanking her for her service to our nation and all the veterans across our state?
Oh, Kitty, no. Go.
Another group of men and women who deserve our recognition are the members of the South Dakota National Guard. The Guard's response to the pandemic is now the longest sustained state-supported mission in the history of the Guard.
What were the Guard doing during the pandemic?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Now, our Guard support
What does that even mean?
also continued in 2020. South Dakota committed roughly 490 soldiers and airmen from 5 units to stateside missions or overseas contingency operations. But there is
fuck
one
is an
battalion
overseas
and their
contingency
commander who I
mission?
would like to single
Bring
out.
them home. Bring them home.
I kept it playing because I thought she would say what the National Guard did, but she didn't even say, like, they were involved in overseas contingency missions. Woo! What?
Yeah, what's that got to do with COVID?
What does this have to do with the state of the state? What the hell?
Lieutenant Colonel Dave Moore commanded the Guard's 152nd Combat Sustainment Support Battalion. Under his command, and for the second time in 3 years, the peer-based 152nd was recognized as the most outstanding Army National Guard battalion in America. On behalf of the unit, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Moore says this.
9 out of 10 dentists recommend South Dakota.
And that their selection is a testament to the professionalism and the dedication of all the 152nd soldiers and a validation of all the hard work that they put in. Collectively, the 152nd has received 13 Bronze Stars, 50 Army Accommodation Medals, 20 Army Achievement Medals, and 67 Combat Action Badges.
It sounds so creepy with the Nazi eagle behind her. I was going to say that.
So you can applaud them, Lieutenant Colonel Moore, the 152nd Unit, and the entire South Dakota National Guard for their commitment to service, sacrifice, and to the great state of South Dakota. Please stand.
America! Fighting them terrorists.
America.
Fuck yeah.
You know, the National Guard was never designed to be going on tours of duty every
Yeah,
year.
dude. Aren't they supposed to be staying in South Dakota? Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
isn't that supposed to be like our state militia?
They've really been abusing our National Guard in the sense that every other year there's a unit going to Afghanistan or Iraq for a year. And it makes no sense because that's not what the National Guard was designed for. We have an army, we have a Marine Corps. We don't need to take citizens off the streets. You know what I mean? We have a legitimate full-time military. And what they've done is they've conscripted these part-time military people
Mhm.
and throwing them overseas. And I support our military, but the National Guard has been used and abused, and they need to bring them troops home.
Yeah, it's bullshit, dude. These fucking wars shouldn't even be happening still. Grinds in my gears, man. Like, we need it as, if it's up to me, dude, I'd press the button. I'd press the red button and then make it all vanish. And we wouldn't have any military people overseas anymore. They'd all be home with their families. They don't need to be overseas fighting wars that we don't need to be involved in.
I agree.
I'd just be cheating the Republicans out of their political rhetoric, though, if we did that. They need grandstand military stuff. So
Yeah.
we need to have been invading countries.
The folks serving at Ellsworth Air Force Base also deserve our recognition. We're joined today by Airman First Class Emily Campos. Would you stand, Emily? Emily was born and raised in Box Elder. She and her 6 siblings were raised by a
Did
single.
they cover anything else? We could skip
After
that.
graduating from Black Hills State, Emily joined the Air Force and became a radiology tech. She was named Distinguished Graduate of her class. She then completed specialized radiology training at the Air Force Academy, where she was recognized by the 10th Surgical Squadron Commander
I think this is the
for her
last thing.
academic achievements. Now, Airman Campos relocated to Ellsworth Air Force Base in August. In her role, she serves the base's 17,000 active duty military personnel, military dependents, and retiree beneficiary population. She also volunteered to help with the base's COVID response training. Her efforts directly contributed to the protection of military personnel in support of 2 bomber task force missions to the Indo-Pacific theater. Emily, we want to thank you, and from the bottom of our hearts,
Indo-Pacific Theater.
I know, right? Is this World War II?
Jesus. I'm going to see where that is.
Indo-Pacific is like Philippines.
We're still in the Philippines? Jesus.
China. Yeah, because they used to call it Indonesia, Indochina.
Dude, we're never leaving Iraq and Afghanistan. We're going to be in those countries for 100 years and still have troops over there.
Recognize you for all your efforts and the efforts on behalf of your fellow airmen and airwomen. Our state is incredibly grateful for your work, their work, and all of your service to our nation.
Yay! Clap the war machine.
What bomber mission did she do in the Indo-Pacific region? I didn't even know we had military conflicts going on over there.
Maybe she's a Vietnam vet and we just don't know.
I don't know. She looks young,
The work
man.
that
I was
at all those who serve at Ellsworth Air Force Base is so crucial to our national defense. This year in my budget, I asked you
It's
to fund
not
the
a
Liberty
national
Wellness
defense.
Center
It's a
project.
national
I hope you
offense.
will
Quit
support it
kidding
for Ellsworth
around.
and for the surrounding community. Now, last year, we started the Governor's Heroism Award to honor heroes who risked their lives to save the life of another. And I would like to talk to you now about this year's honoree. Joining us today is the family of Chief Deputy Lee Weber of the Hughes County Sheriff's Department. Now, Chief Deputy Weber had served in the department since 2015. Before that, he enlisted in the U.S. Army soon after 9/11 and completed 2 tours to the Middle East in service to our great country. He was active in the Army National Guard. He loved hunting and fishing, watching football, and spending time with his wife, Wendy, and their 6 children, who he loved deeply. This past July 3rd, Lee was boating with his family on the Missouri River. His son fell out of the boat with no life vest on. And without hesitation, Lee dove into the water to save his son. And while he was able to get to his son safely, Lee was not able to save himself. He died a hero that day. So we mourn the loss of this great man, and we honor Lee for his courage, his sacrifice, and his selfless commitment to you and to your family, Wendy. I want to extend my prayers and my condolences to you and to your entire family. Their family's sitting right up here. And Wendy, if you and the family don't mind standing.
Yeah, and look at that sun. sitting
Today,
there all sad because it's fucking dad's day.
selfless
And
courage
this
and
bitch is sitting there
sacrifice, and I am
using him
awarding
as a
the
fucking
Governor's
story,
Award for heroism
Yeah.
to your
you
husband,
know, to get some goddamn applause.
Lee Weber. Thank you.
Fucking kids are sitting there mad because their dad's dead, and you're fucking talking about it, you know. South Dakota, a lot of people don't understand or don't realize, but a lot of what the legislature does is literally just self-congratulatory circle jerks,
Yeah.
where they're like, we want to pass this measure that recognizes so and so for being a great teacher, and it's like, dude, this is not what you're there to do.
Strengthening families, no matter what they look like, is a key element to every decision that I make as governor. And I am committed to keeping family at the center of my policy decisions. The family is the cradle of civil society. Strong families create strong communities, and strong communities will produce the strongest state in the nation. This session, I hope you all will join me in standing up for families. Last year, we found so many ways to work together to maintain the freedoms of our people, to promote our outdoor heritage, to rein in the endless expansion of government into our daily lives. This year, it is my hope that we will find even more opportunities to work together, advancing common sense solutions to the problems that we can solve on behalf of the people of this great state. Now, before I close, I want to take a moment to thank my family. Brian and Cassidy and Kyle are back there
My
today.
family,
Kennedy
who
and
I
Booker
paid a
are at
hefty
school.
ransom to come
But I want to
work in
thank you
my
all for your love
cabinet.
and for your support and for your energy. People who know our family know that we do this job together.
Thank you, Pierre, for
Every
single-handedly
challenging time, they
supporting the
walk
Gnome
alongside me,
family.
they support me, they pray with me, and they help me make wise decisions for people.
Well, they're
Because of
helping
them
you
and
with
their
shit
support for
then,
me
if that's
and doing this
what they're
job and
helping you
serving
with.
South Dakota together,
Nepotism.
we are hoping that every decision we make makes South Dakota a better place to be, a better place to live, to do business, to raise a family. One of the reasons that I care so
Such
deeply about all of
bullshit,
these
dude.
issues is
Why
because
didn't
I
you
want
file
those
that
things for
lawsuit
my
against
family
Amendment A
and
then?
for every other family. And I know that's why all
Goddamn
of you
lying
serve
piece of
as
crap.
well. So I look forward to working with each
Nazi
of you and
eagle
with all of
witch.
South Dakota's leaders to improve our state for today and for the next generation. Thank you, and may God bless the great state of South
God bless
Dakota.
America. America's specialist rodeo nation ever.
So what did we learn here? We learned that South Dakota is the pheasant capital of South Dakota, or of the world. We're also number one for rodeos, number one for tourism during the pandemic, aka super spreader events. What else did we learn here?
We got freedom, but we don't got freedom to just what we want into our own bodies, because that's the way their dear leader wants it. Yeah, dude, I don't know. Well, anyways, if you like the show, hit that subscribe button. Like us on Facebook, Hedgehog Watchdog Podcast.
Oh, here, real quick. Next week, I think it's next week. What's the date today? 17th? No, not next week. 2 weeks from today. I'm not sure what next week's show is going to be. We'll have to come up with it. But 2 weeks from today, we have the Libertarian Party of South Dakota's treasurer, Daryl Root, who wants to come on and talk about the national debt. And I figure we can throw in crony capitalist bailouts.
Yeah. Well, hell yeah. Daryl's a Senate candidate for District 4?
Yeah, he was in 20. He also is an entrepreneur. He has a couple.
Yeah. He's got a
businesses.
spice seasoning. I keep saying spice. Seasoning. What is it? What's his seasoning company called? Anyhow,
Spice company, whatever.
He'll tell us tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow. He'll tell you all about it. Tom says, what I want to know is if you guys are drinking some homemade brew without me. Yes, Tom. Little known secret and some South Dakota history, state mandated South Dakota history lesson. We drink on every episode. We're not shy about it. Here, I'm gonna mix this. I learned this from A&E when I was a little kid. You mix Red Bull. and run together.
I learned this from an episode of Intervention.
But oh yeah, additional news, some Libertarian Party news. We're having a special membership meeting, 28th, 7 p.m. Central Time, January 28th, 8 p.m. Central Time.
January 28th. We got some stuff to talk about. We're gonna talk about our upcoming convention and a few other things. Get our website back up and running.
Yep, and then Joshua Smith, our LNC at-large member, will be joining us February 13th, so that should be a good show. And yeah, that's about all I've got. Let's get this get that off. But yeah,
Thanks for tuning in.
thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to us if you enjoy the content. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Hedgehog Watchdog. And if you want to be a sponsor, help sponsor our show and help us keep things running, you can email us at hedgehogwatchdog@gmail.com and we'll get right back to you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
See ya.